How's it going, everybody? Somebody chime in, let me know if you can hear me and see me and all that good shit. Rather be in a bar. Maybe we should do a field trip someday, and I can just bring I guess I could just do it with my phone. Just set it on the table in a bar, and we can do it from we can do it on location. All right. Well, I'm just assuming that everything is working and all that stuff. So I'd like to welcome you out tonight. Something I wanted to talk about is this is a question that this is probably the most asked question I ever get from students, like for the past, over the past 30 years. This is like a question that just comes up over and over and over and over again. And it's basically how to practice. Well, how do I practice? And at first I was kind of took it as like, well, what do you mean? How do you practice? You know how to play something and you work on it. But there is definitely a lot more to it than that. So what I've done is I've put together some things that will help. Some of these are like for, very early on beginners. And then some of the stuff is just, it gets a little bit more advanced, but nothing too crazy. Just as your skill level improves, new things that you can do. So I put together some exercises and things that I use with my private lessons that really, really help. And now some of these are about as exciting to play as watch grass grow, but they really, really do help. So sometimes, you got to take a hit for a necessary evil, especially for something like this, which will literally shave time off of how long it takes you to accomplish some of these things. So as usual, there is a link in the description where you can download the tabs and stuff for these things that we're going to be going over. So I encourage you to do that. Get those so you can follow along. All right. So the very first one that I want to talk about, there isn't a tab for this particular thing because it's not necessary. But when you're a beginner, and maybe some of you guys can relate to this currently. You start learning chords, you learn, your, G and C and D and A minor, and all those kind of chords like that. And then you start, trying to like learn songs. And one of the first things that you struggle with is being able to change chords quickly enough. So a lot of you can probably relate or remember what it was like to be like that. Watching and learning from Melbourne, Australia. Oh, awesome. Thank you for joining us, Paul. So just out of curiosity, because I don't know squat about this kind of stuff, what time is it in Australia right now? Because like where I'm at right now, it's about 5 p.m. So I'm just kind of curious how far away it is. Not really a beginner here. Over 30 years ago, I got my first guitar from my parents. Oh, awesome. Awesome. Well, stick around. Maybe there, might be some of this stuff that, maybe could help you. These first couple of things are really kind of aimed at the beginners, but it's like I said, it's good stuff, I think. So if it's 11 a.m. So it's 11 a.m. tomorrow. That's crazy. That's crazy. All right. So, what do I think about shred guitar playing? I really like it. Like I grew up in the 80s. And so I was like way into Yngwie and Paul Gilbert and Vinnie Moore and stuff like that. Really, really like that stuff. And I used to really pursue it, but I've just kind of, the older I've gotten, the less, interest I've had in just constantly doing that. Hi, Doug. Amarillo, Texas. Cool. I'm your favorite primetime show, man. You need to get a better cable package, man. Thanks, I appreciate it. I'm an advanced beginner. Thank God for 3-chord rock. My brain don't even think near that fast. Well, this first thing here is pretty basic, but and it maybe if you've ever struggled with chords, this could help. Okay, so basically what it is that when you start learning chords, you Like one of the first chords you probably learned was C. So you're looking at the little chart and you're like, okay, so my first finger goes here and my second finger goes here and my third finger goes here. And then you end up memorizing the chord that when you go to play it, that you build it one finger at a time. And you end up doing that with all of the chords. Now, eventually over time with practice and just experience, that your transitions get better. You start working with moving all your fingers together. But I've got an exercise that I'm going to show you that can speed that process up drastically. So what we're going to do is with a C chord. So you just put your fingers on for a regular C major chord. Give it a strum to make sure that it sounds right. You know, if your guitar's in tune. The reason is because we are going to we want to use our ear to be able to tell when there's an issue. So we strum the C chord, and now you're going to watch your left hand while your fretting hand. You know, maybe you're left-handed, so it's your right hand, but your fretting hand. You're going to watch this while you do it because hand-eye coordination is like part of what helps with this. So you give it a strum. And then you're going to try to lift all three fingers off at the same time, approximately, you know, maybe a quarter of an inch to start with. And then you're going to try to set all three of them back down at the same time and then give it a strum. And your ear will tell if you're doing it right. So like if you set your fingers back down and that doesn't sound right, then you can look and see, oh, my first finger moved up. So what it is that, you know, you have muscle memory that you're born with, and you have muscle memory that that you obtain by playing guitar. So our hands, like our natural muscle memory for our hands is that our fingers just kind of stay close together and they kind of work in unison like this, but not in different different shapes of your fingers. So when you lift your fingers off of that C, they naturally just want to go back being side by side. So that's why you want to just keep your thumb on the back of the neck and just lift them up and try to hold the shape of that C chord. And then set it back down and strum. Lift, set, strum. So, like I said, it's boring. It's like an extremely boring exercise, but this is what you get out of it. So how you want to practice this is you're going to do it every day for 5 minutes, which is going to seem like eternity. So you want to warm up first, play a song, whatever, run through some chords, just depending upon what level you're at, and get loosened up and everything, and then start, set a timer and just start working with it. So you're strum, lift, set, strum for 5 minutes. It's going to feel like eternity. So after a day or maybe 2 days, you're going to be really good at it. Then go higher, go an inch, lift your fingers up an inch, and set, lift, set. Day or two later, you're going to be even better. Bring them out and then back in like this. But each time you want to strum because your ear is going to tell you if you're doing it right. So the goal is to be able to, if you really dedicate the 5 minutes a day to this, because I've been using this exercise for a long time with my students, and I've never seen anybody take longer than 2 weeks of doing it that actually tried. I mean, a lot of people are like, oh, I practiced it, but I could tell that they actually did not, because it's, like I said, it's not very fun. But the end result is that when you go to do a C chord, you'll just see how, like, when I reach up, I'm already making the shape on the way there. Now, what I found that if you do this with C, the other chords will just fall into line. They'll do the same thing because it's like your hand and your brain get on the same page of what it is that you're trying to do. So then when you go to play other chords, you see as I change, all my fingers are moving at the same time. I'm not, building the chords one finger at a time or 2 fingers at a time. You want to work with it like that. Work with it with C, and then the other chords will come in. So anyhow, like I said, eventually this just happens without doing this exercise. Like millions of people learn how to play guitar and don't do my exercise, but it does speed the process up considerably. But like I said, not very exciting. But if you do it with C, You don't need to do it with any of the other chords. The only other two chords that sometimes present an issue are G and D, G major and D major. But I'm actually going to show you another exercise that will conquer that as well. Let's see here. Is shred guitar attainable for beginners? Well, yeah, that's a pretty big umbrella. Lots of stuff, falls underneath that. If you're a beginner and that's what you're really striving to do, one of the things we're going to be going over here in a few minutes will actually help with that. So I'll bring it back up when we get there. I've been playing for 16 months. I'm an advanced first dayer. LA, 3 years into this journey. Thank you for all your vids. Oh, you're welcome. I appreciate you being here. All right, so that's the first exercise that I wanted to show you. Does anybody have any questions about that before move on? If you do, I'm going to go ahead and just move on. But if you do have a question, just put it in there and I'll get back to it. All right, so the next kind of an obstacle, you get the chords down where you can change them, pretty good with all your fingers at the same time. And then you start working with transitioning from one chord to another, like playing a song. How important is thumb position? I'd say it's very important. And it depends on what I'm playing as to where I have it. Now, as far as like when you look in some, like the Hal Leonard method book, and it shows a picture of a guy and his thumb is just planted, right on the back of the neck like that. I'm not a believer in that, of having it. I mean, you'll see me a lot of times, I'll have my thumb up here. But it does really help a lot with leverage to be able to play. So biggest thing with that is that you don't want to stick the palm of your hand against the back of the neck and hold it like this, because you see how my wrist is straight here with my arm. You always want to have it curved like this. You always want to have that arc in your wrist there, so that way you can get your fingers spread apart. If you're like this and you're trying to spread your fingers, it's impossible. So you start working with trying to change chords, and you're probably thinking, oh my God, how do people change chords fast enough that there isn't dead silence in between the chord changes? When you're, especially if you're playing by yourself, if you're just playing, you don't want there to be like, a pause in between those chord changes. So this other exercise that I'm going to show you, and again, it's a little bit more interesting than the last one, a little more entertaining, but it's going to help with this of being able to play and change chords more efficiently. So what it is that when people are playing a song, they're changing chords. It's not that they're changing so fast is why you can hear, so you can still hear the sound. It's actually, it's a technique. So if I'm playing, this strum pattern, like, down, 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 and then I'm going to do an upstroke before I change strings. So I just hit the first 2 or 3 strings, and while that's ringing out, it gives me the opportunity to switch to the next chord. Playing G with different finger positions than what I noticed you played, is that going to be a problem going forward? I use little finger on the high E string. Yeah. Okay, I'm using, so I'm playing this G chord, my second finger on the low E, first finger on the A string, third finger on the B string, and fourth finger on the high E. So sometimes people will play it like this with the B string open. Either way is correct. Do you mean like you're playing it that, but you're using your pinky and you're playing the B string open? If that's the case, it's totally fine. It's like I said, it's the same. You're still playing the same notes. It's just that the notes are G, B, and D. So if you're playing this note, it's a D. If you're playing it open, it's a B. What about scale length on a guitar affect your ability to form chords if your fingers are smaller? I don't know. I honestly have never really thought about it before. I have guitars with, different, with all different scale lengths. I've never really noticed a huge difference as far as with playing the chords, other than I've got a Washburn Maverick that is like really short scale, and it just feels funny. It feels like I'm playing like a 3/4 size guitar almost. But as far as it like affecting your hands for doing stuff like that, I mean, if you've got shorter arms and you're playing a longer scale guitar, it might be, because you're reaching out far, that could be a little bit of a problem. But generally, it isn't anything that's like a huge thing to have to worry about. I don't use first finger at all. So, okay, so you mean that when you're playing G, you're just doing this? So you're on the 3rd fret of the low E and then the B and the high E? Is that what you mean, like that? How important is finger picking? Pretty important if you want to play finger picking songs. That was what we did last week. We did a whole bunch of finger picking stuff. Yeah, so anyhow, if that is how you're playing G like that, that's actually G5. Unless you're playing the B string open, then that's a full-on G. A string is actually muted. But if you're getting here, you're not getting a B, which is the 3rd, so you're just playing G's and D's, and it's just it's like a big power chord. I do that voicing all the time. I really like the way it sounds. Yeah, okay, so this next exercise I'm going to show you. Oh, and one thing too, also with your chord, like you do this exercise with C, when you're practicing changing chords, one thing too you really want to look for is ways that you can switch from one chord to another one without having to take off all of your fingers. So like if you're playing C and you go to an A minor, you only have to move one finger. Yeah, if you're playing D and then you switch to a G, you don't have to move your 3rd finger. Anytime you can do things like that, the shape of A minor looks just like E major. Any of those little shortcuts like that can really help you with memorize. Okay, 2nd finger on G. So you're meaning the G here. 3rd finger on B, 4th finger on G. Yeah. So that's G5. It's neither a major or minor. It's like doing a power chord like that. Just those same notes. All right. So for this exercise, we're going to be practicing switching from G to D. Now, when we switch from G to D, we don't need to take this finger off. So you just want to leave it there. So here's how the exercise works. We're going to do a downstroke with G, and then we're going to do an upstroke. And while that's ringing out, we're going to reach for a D, downstroke on D, and then the same thing back to G. So you're like down, up, down, up. Now, when you do this, you want it to be evenly spaced out. So it's like we use our metronome here. Like that. Now, like I said, it's not a very exciting exercise to play, but it really, really, really will help. So what I always tell, this is how when I teach it, this is how I tell my students to do. It's like, okay, make sure you're holding your pick correctly. So the point of the pick is coming off from the side of your thumb at a 90-degree angle. So that way the pick is straight on with the strings, but your arm is straight and not bent like this. You want to keep it back like that. Put your finger on for the chord. Rest your forearm on the beveled part of your electric guitar, or if you're on an acoustic guitar, over the bout. Just past the 1st string. I reach up with my wrist. Now you see when I'm strumming, I'm not with my whole arm like this, or you want to keep it. I mean, your elbow is going to move somewhat, but you want it to be the majority of the movement to be with your wrist. Evenly spaced, like with the metronome. So again, 5 minutes of this. It's going to seem like eternity. So if you sit there and work at it for 5 minutes every day like this, and at first, you're probably going to struggle a little bit. What you just want to make sure you don't do is you want them to be evenly spaced. Like that. So you're going to get faster with it. So between that and the one with C, it's going to really speed the process up of being able to like play through songs and stuff like that. So like one of the very first songs that I'll teach a beginner is Boulevard of Broken Dreams by Green Day, because it's just like really easy. E minor, G, D, and A. And the strum for it, and they're actually capoed on the first fret to be in the same key, but the strum for it is a downstroke is a half note, 1, 2, and then a quarter note on beat 3, and then an eighth note on beat 4, and then the and to 4 is the upstroke. So it's like 1, 2, 3, 4, and 1, 2, 3, 4. See how I'm kind of putting an accent on that upstroke just so you can hear where it's at. But when you're just playing it, it's like. Mostly wrist, not a whole lot in the elbow. And that just really keeps everything confined. And the less you're having to move, the easier it is. All right. So yeah, those are 2 exercises that, if you were taking private lessons from me, they'd be like some of the first things that we would work with. So does anybody have any questions on that? And if you like the content, you like what I'm doing here and stuff, hit that thumbs up button. It really helps to show them that I'm doing a good job, and all the YouTube algorithm yada 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 stuff that I don't really understand, but it really helps. If you hit the like button and comment, we've got lots of comments going tonight. It looks really good. All right, so I guess we can move along then. All right, so the next thing that I wanted to talk about is alternate picking. So this kind of goes back to earlier, where was it at? Now I can't find it in there, but somebody was asking about shred and about shred as a beginner. I hope you're still here, because this is gonna help with that, is with alternate picking. So what alternate picking is that, and we're talking about playing with single notes right now, not chords. It's a down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up. Never 2 downs in a row, never 2 ups in a row. Now that doesn't mean that you can't do that. There's lots of situations where you might do lots of downstrokes in a row or multiple upstrokes in a row. But if you are good at alternate picking, your picking hand will just choose the path of least resistance for whatever it is you're playing. But what I found is if you're not good at alternate picking and you're trying to play something that's just like a straight 16th note feel, it's virtually impossible. So I have an exercise, an alternate picking exercise that actually sounds cool. I can't take credit for it. I actually stole it from Paul Gilbert. But it helps out immensely. And when you get to where you can play it pretty quick, it's actually kind of a cool lick. How long have you been playing? A long time. I started playing in like 1982 or 1983. I'm not 100% sure of which it is, but one or the other. So what's that? Like 40 years that I've been playing, something like that. For as many years that I've been playing, I should be like a lot better than I am. You really don't ever want to gauge how long you've been playing by how many like years. It's like how many hours you've actually put in. All right, so for this picking exercise, we're going to come up here to the 9th fret on the B string with your first finger. So it's only got 4 notes in it, and this is on your tabs. This is on oh, wow. It's still on the first page. I thought it was on the second page by now, but yeah, so it's on the I'm a youngin'. Yeah. Okay. So we're going to start here on the 9th fret of the B string, and we're going to play 3 notes on this string. We're going to play 9, and then 10 with your second finger, and then 12 with your pinky. Now, for those of you that are already going through your head, my pinky's too short, my pinky isn't strong enough, my pinky isn't coordinated. I've heard all the different reasons. You want to use your pinky. It's such an advantage to use it. Now, there are lots and lots of really great players that I've seen play that do not use their pinky ever. So, I mean, it's not that it's impossible, but it's so much easier. Just trust me. Especially, if right now you haven't really used it a lot and it's very uncoordinated, it might be a little frustrating, but just give it a little bit of time. Once you get used to it, it really helps out a lot. Okay, so we're going to go 9, 10, 12, and then the 4th note is 9 on the high E string. So the sequence goes 9, 10, 12, 9, and then back down 12, 10, 9, 10, 12, 9, 12, 9, 12, 9, 12, 10, and then it just starts over again. So if you wanted to think of it as like this is note number 1, note number 2, note number 3, and note number 4, you're going 1, 2, 3, 4, 3, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 3, 4, 3, 4, 3, 2, 1, 2, 3, over and over and over again like that. So the very first thing you want to do is just something in my eye is just memorize the sequence. So you're not having to put too much thought into what your left hand is doing. So you could simply just play it and keep your eyes on your left hand, builds that hand-eye coordination. And don't worry about what you're doing with your picking hand. I mean, you can just do all downstrokes if you want it, but just get the sequence down. Then focus on your right hand or your picking hand. So we're going to be down, up, down, and now we're moving to the next string. So logic might be telling you, okay, well, I have to go in that direction. I just did a downstroke. I should just keep going and do another downstroke, which is exactly what I did very, very early on. And, this was before YouTube and any of that kind of stuff. And I literally knew this was like when I was in high school, and I only knew maybe 5 people that played guitar, So it wasn't, I didn't really have anybody to discuss it or whatever. Anyhow, it was at some point in time I was playing and somebody actually mentioned it to me. They pointed out what I was doing, and it was really, really, really hard to correct. So I don't want anybody to have to go through that. So you're going to be down, up, down, and we're doing an upstroke when we're changing strings because no 2 downs in a row, no 2 ups in a row. So if you're doing it right, this will always be a down, this will always be an up, this will always be a down, and this will always be an up. Okay, now, if you notice, as I work my way up on the B string here, I'm leaving the previous fingers down. You want to leave them down. Just a good habit to get into, so that way you can play licks, your fingers are ready, in case you're going to, do something else. And the other thing, when you go from here to here, don't leave this finger on. You don't want to hear those notes ring over each other. Not that it's not, it's like the beginning of Helter Skelter, it's like really dissonant. But for this, we want it to be separate. Like that. Now, after you get it down and everything, then you're going to want to practice this with a metronome. So there's like a few different ways that you can do it. If, let's see. Can't see. I'm so blind. I can't read the, turn the flashlight on here. Okay. So I've got it set at 60 beats a minute. So what you can do is, and this is after you get the sequence memorized. Just play it as quarter notes. And then switch to eighth notes. Back to quarter notes. Now, you can do any combinations that you want. You can do quarter notes, eighth notes, 16th notes, triplets, and I recommend that you do all of those different things. Now, it's 60 beats a minute. Quarter notes are pretty slow, and you might, as you get faster, you're going to be tempted to want to increase the speed and play the quarter notes, like at 100 beats a minute. But then you go to do the eighth notes, you'd have to slow it back down. So music, as a general rule, it isn't like it's just made up of, there isn't, generally it's not like there's going to be a song or a part of song and it's just eighth notes or it's just quarter notes or it's just 16th notes. It's usually a combination. So if you're at a, working with the metronome like this, and then you can play it as quarter notes and then eighth notes, 16th notes, 1E and a 2E and a triplets, triplet. Just sit there and go through all of the different things like that, and just switch it up, like play quarter notes and then 16th notes, and then maybe you do triplets, and then maybe you do quarter notes again, and then maybe you do 16th notes or whatever. Just mix it up and just have it so each time you recycle, each time it starts over again at the repeat, you switch what you're doing at the same tempo but without stopping. That's the goal. So and you may have to start, depending upon where you are on the guitar, you may have to start at a slower than 60, and that's totally fine. Or you might be ready to do it a little bit faster, and that's cool too. So how this exercise, how I tell people to do this one, is you want to make sure you're good and warmed up first. Turn your metronome on, set a timer for, the goal is to be able to play it for 3 consecutive minutes without making a mistake. So that means without doing the wrong direction pick stroke, hitting the wrong note, having the notes ring over each other or get out of time with the metronome. So if you can do that for 3 consecutive minutes without making a mistake, you spend a total of 5 minutes attempting to do this. If you fail, no big deal, because you're just going to do it again tomorrow anyway, until you can do it at that tempo. And then the next day you can turn it up. So let's say you were at 60. When you turn it up, don't go, oh, I was doing it at 60. Let's try 100. How about let's try 62? So going from 60 to 62, you may not notice any difference. You might be able to play it right away. try 64. Just go up a beat or two at a time until it gets to where it's not like impossible, where it feels like you're starting over, but it's there's a little bit of a challenge. You want there to be, so there's a little bit of a challenge. You're having to reach just a little bit to get there. And then once you can do that again, then you can turn it up again. So you may be, if you work at this for, 5 minutes a day, you may be increasing your tempo once or twice a week for a while, and then you're going to get to a certain level, and then it kind of tapers off where you're not going to, because you're playing pretty quick. Even if your goal isn't to be able to play really fast and stuff, it's good. Being overqualified is a good thing. So yeah, that's the exercise for alternate picking. Said alternate picking is extremely important. No matter what genre of music or what your goals are, alternate picking is like really, really important. All right. So if you have any questions about that, go ahead and leave them in the comments. I'm going to move on. So now what I want to do is I want to show you a couple of riffs from songs that are really good riffs just to play for practice. So the first one is the riff from Message in a Bottle by the Police. So what I like about doing this one is that it's big stretches. So you've got all these power chord shapes, which you're going to be doing I do in between my first and second finger for this. And then we're going to do another one on top. So it's like we're going 1, 5, 9. So when I play it, I use my first, second, and then fourth finger. Now, some people find it more comfortable to go first, third, fourth finger like that. That just feels really, really foreign and weird to me, so I just don't do it that way. Whichever way is comfortable for you is fine. And maybe at this point you don't know which way is going to be comfortable. So I would just try it both ways. Generally, one way is going to feel really weird, and the other way is going to be okay at first, especially if you're just kind of starting with it. All right, so starting on the 4th fret of the A string, and then we go to the 6th fret of the D string, and then the 8th fret of the G string. Now you want the notes to be separate. So as I ascend, I remove the finger so that way the notes aren't still ringing out. Then we're going to that's our first shape. Now we're going to do the same shape, but we're going to move it up a half step and down a set of strings. So now we're starting on the low E at the fret, 7th fret of the A string, and 9th fret of the D string. So we've got then we're going to go back to the A, D, and G string, but we're going to move down to the 2nd fret. So 2nd fret of the A string, 4th fret of the D string, and 6th fret of the G string. So, and then finally, we're just going to move straight down again. So we start on the 2nd fret of the low E, and we're going to go there to the 4th fret of the A string, to the 6th fret of the D string, and then we're going to slide that up a half step. And then it just starts over again. It just repeats. So what this is going to do for you is it's really going to help with stretching your hand out good. You've probably already found there'll be certain things you're trying to do and you think, oh, I can't do that because my fingers aren't long enough, or my hands are too small, or my fingers don't spread apart. That's just really not that big of an issue for most things. I mean, look at my hands. I've got very small hands. My fingers aren't long. but I can stretch them out really good, and a lot of it came from playing riffs like this one. So it's a really, really good one for doing that. If you're just starting out with it, you're going to probably feel some pain kind of through the palm of your hand, and that's just from where you're stretching those tendons and stuff. But just like anything else, listen to your body. If it hurts, stop. Doesn't mean you shouldn't do it. It just means that you should give your hand a break. Kind of work yourself up to it. Get some strength and everything, and then you can play it. I was in a band that we used to cover this song, and so by the time you get through the whole song, it's a pretty good workout. Wow, stretching more than the elastic in my pants. I'll get there though. Leave your pants alone and work slowly. Well, we got some funny people in here tonight. Yeah, so that's Message in a Bottle. I've been using that riff as for an exercise for a really, really long time. The riff from Every Breath You Take is actually, another Police one that's actually good too. Andy Summers, he's a really underrated guitarist that does some really cool stuff. Okay. All right. And then the next riff that I want to show you that's good for, just for a practice aid it's a riff actually out of the song Back in Black. And what this is going to be good for is alternate picking, for one, and for string skipping. So there are, for those of you that don't know what I mean by string skipping, is that you have riffs where you might be playing, on the like the low E, and then you skip over the A string and go right to the D string. Stuff like that, or there's string skipping arpeggios, things like that where you have to jump over the strings. So this particular riff really works well for that. And it's alternate picking. So we're going to start off. We've got the open low E string. We're going to do that as a downstroke. And then we're going to go to the D string as played open as an upstroke. And then we're going to go to the 4th fret of the A string with your 3rd finger, and then to the 2nd fret of the A string with your 1st finger, and then back to that 4, and then the 3rd fret of the low E. So it's that riff, in case you hadn't figured it out yet. So down on the E, up on the D, down on the A, up on A, back down, and then an upstroke when we go to that G note there on the 3rd fret of the low E. Then your 1st finger is going to go right back to the 2nd fret of the A string, and then and that's a downstroke. And then the A string open is an upstroke. Back to the 2nd fret is a down. Then you shift your hand down to the 1st fret, move it back up to the 2nd fret, and then that repeats. So that's the first measure, and you just repeat that 4 times. Whoops. All right. So on the song, it repeats that part 4 times. And then when we go to the 2nd measure, we're just going to do the same thing, but we're going to move it up a 4th. So now it's going to be the same pattern, but we're going to start on the A string and then go to the G string open. then the D string, 4th fret to the 2nd, back to 4, 3rd fret of the A, 2nd fret of the D, open D, 2nd fret to the 1st fret, back to the 2. And then it just goes back to the other. So when you play the whole thing together, so pretty cool riff, but it's just a really great exercise for both of your hands. You're working on that alternate picking, working with those notes. You're working with shifting your hand position and string skipping. So it's a great riff for doing that. A string is flat. You can hear the tension. Sounds all right to me. All right. And then that just leaves one last riff that I want to show you that, wait a minute, I think it does anyway. Hold on. I feel like there was something. No, I guess that's it. Oh, no worries, Rich. I mean, it could be flat, but it sounds, I mean, it sounds close enough, you know, right now. I tuned up right before I came on, but, you know, it's like about 60 degrees in my house, so it's pretty cold. All right, so this is like the main opening riff from Long Train Runnin' by the Doobie Brothers. So we're just going to be basically playing one chord. Even though when you look on your transcription, it shows several different chords. It'll make more sense when we start doing it. But this is a really, really great exercise for timing and the mute strums, and then just like a faster, more kind of a funk kind of a strumming pattern. So that's the riff that we'll be doing. So the first thing you're going to do is you're just going to take your first finger and just bar it all the way across the 12th fret, or excuse me, the 9th fret of the first 5 strings. And then we're going to take our 2nd and 3rd finger and we want to put them down like we're doing a minor 7th shape. So my 2nd finger is on the 10th fret of the B string, and my 3rd finger is on the 11th fret of the D string. So that's G minor 7. But when we take those fingers off and we just play all of the strings just fretted there, then that's like a G9 suspended 4. So this starts off, we rest on the first measure until the last 2 16th notes of beat number 4. And then we've just got a quick. Isn't that like China Grove as well? Yeah, China Grove has that. That's another one that, I mean, we just didn't have time to go through. You know, there's like tons of other riffs that I do that are great exercises. But yeah, China Grove, you know, it has that, you know. Kind of the same thing. So I actually did a video on this channel, not a live stream, just a regular YouTube video of like a week or 2 ago, where I actually go over that that China Grove riff, if you're interested in learning it. Yeah, so we start off here and we're going to do the let's see, what is Claude calls those chickas. What I'm doing is that I just keep my first finger here all the time, but I'm not always pressing. if you just release the tension, so you're just touching the string, then when you strum it, you get more of that that kind of a percussive sound, is and that's what we want. Then, starting on the downbeat of the second measure, we're going to strum the G9 suspended 4, and then we're going to hammer on into the G major, or the G minor 7. So you're going to be doing a hammer on with your second and third finger simultaneously. And like I said, the second finger is on the 10th fret of the B string, and the third finger is on the 11th fret of the D string. So if you've never done this before, where you're hammering into a chord like that, it can be kind of tricky. It's one of those things that it doesn't look hard, but then when you go to do it, your fingers are all kind of freaking out. Just work with it really slow, and you'll get it. Hey, no problem, Rich. I appreciate you being here. It's great. I'm here every week. All right. Have you ever had wrist problems from playing? Let me come back to that. Yeah, I actually have. We'll talk about that in just a second. All right, so I just want to get this riff done before we end up going over time. So we've got we hammer into that, and then we play that chord. So this is like all 16th notes. And then we're going to do the chukka things there again. And then we're still on the G minor 7. Then we take our fingers off, back to the G9 suspended 4. And then it just starts over again. So it's like... Now, when I'm doing the strum for this, you don't, it would be really hard to play it if you're like, like moving your whole arm like that. You want to really isolate it to your wrist. Oh, well, thanks for showing up, Paul. I appreciate it. Oh, you're welcome. Again, thanks for tuning in. We're slowly growing. Yeah, so it's all really just about keeping your wrist loose. So something I'd really recommend that you do, and I didn't have the luxury to be able to do this when I learned this originally, because this was something I learned. I was probably, I don't know, like 14 or 15 years old or something when I learned this, and I didn't want to. I was like really against it, but my guitar teacher insisted, and I'm really glad he did, because it's been really helpful. I was pretty, at that age, I was pretty narrow-minded, tunnel vision, I just wanted to be able to play, Motley Crue, things like that. But a good way that you can really kind of work with that rhythm stuff is actually with your metronome, or even like a drum loop or something. But if you do it with the metronome, then you can be like, so you're working on those different timings. There's all kinds of different things that you can work with that. I watched a guy the other day, a video. I can't remember the guy's name. I never heard of him before, but he's like a funk player, and he was doing like an exercise like that. His right hand was just like a blur. I mean, it looked like he was going like this. It was ridiculous how fast this guy could strum. It was pretty cool. But yeah, so that's oh yeah, I completely sidetracked myself. Yeah, so something that you can do to practice this is pull the song up on YouTube and then use that feature to slow it down. So if you don't know, you just go to um, the underneath the screen, the little settings button, and then there's one that says playback speed, and then just slow it down. Try 3/4, try half. It doesn't change the pitch. It's still going to be, in pitch. And this is in just standard tuning as far as I remember. Um, and then you can like play right along with it and get nice and in sync with it. And it really it's fun to play, and it's really, really good just all around for your all around playing and rhythm and stuff. Okay, so let's see. Have you ever had a wrist problems from playing, and so how did you fix it? Okay, yeah. I have actually been having a lot of problems with my right arm, with my wrist, and up in my shoulder. Uh, I need some where they go with the scope and like clean out my rotator cuff. And then I've got something that's called cubital tunnel syndrome, and it's a nerve that is running across this bone. So when I bend my arm, like when I sleep, I always want to do this, and it's been causing a lot of issues of numbness and my hand going to sleep. And I need to have surgery on that where they relocate the nerve, but the recovery time is months and months, and I just can't afford to do it. I'd be homeless by the time I recovered from it. And then just some problems like some kind of tendonitis things in here. But the short answer to what I've done for it, aside from just like listening to my body, and when things start hurting, I take a break. I've put well, that's actually with the cubital tunnel for my wrist and everything. Well, it's actually part of that, I guess, is I went to the doctor and I got a cortisone shot. I've had one in my elbow and I've had one in my shoulder, and they hurt like hell, but it really does help. I mean, it gave me relief for quite a while. But yeah, I'll isolate them, wear a brace when I sleep, so that way I'm not bending it, keeps it straight. Hot, cold, alternating between an ice pack and hot pack and stuff like that has really helped out a lot. Never really had any problems with the stuff until like the last 10 years. It's just like everything's gone to hell in a handbasket on my body. Carpal tunnel and tendonitis. Yeah, that's what I've had, is the tendonitis. And the carpal tunnel, I fear for that. I'm sure that it's something that's going to come, because not only have I, played guitar like, almost my entire life, I was also an auto mechanic for a long time. So always, jerking on wrenches and stuff. And I've just, wore my shit out. All right. No, we are not 20 anymore. I can't even remember what that was like. So when you say in the classical position, you mean like how I'm holding the guitar now? Because I do the exact same thing. In fact, that's something that, if you are a beginner, or even if you've been playing for a while, I really recommend. I've probably said this a million times now, but I really recommend sitting this way. So much better, puts your arms in such a more natural position. It's much easier to play. Yeah, if I was a racehorse, they'd have shot me. Lots of times I've thought, I'll go into the doctor and they'll run tests and they'll come to give me the results, and I'll say, am I going to a glue factory, or what's going on? Oh, that's a bummer, Alan. I can kind of relate. I don't know how well you're going to be able to see this on here. I don't know how the camera's really picking it up, but you can see like the scar there on this finger, that white line. And then my thumb. I was driving a car and I had my hand out the window on the roof, and the car rolled, and I rolled it onto my hand. And this was when I was about, probably about 22 years old. And they told me, I mean, it just pulled all the meat off. It was a mess. And they told me I'd never play again. And I went through physical therapy and did all the stuff. And the only thing I can't do is, like, I can bend my thumb, but this thumb, it doesn't bend any more than that. That's it. Yeah, 54. That's coming for me in 2 short years. That's absolutely right, Rich. Rich Ackerman, sitting in this position, it's just better for everything. It doesn't, your arms don't hurt, your back, everything. Does take a little getting used to. But once you do, it's great. But if you think about it, if I was using a strap, if I stood up, the guitar would be here. If I'm sitting with it over on this leg, playing like this, when I stand up, where does it go? It comes back over here. So it kind of doesn't really make a lot of sense to play one way just so you can turn around and switch to do something else. 9 surgeries. Damn. Man, maybe we might need to send you out to pasture. All right. Well, that's going to do it for tonight. This was great. I really appreciate everybody that came out. If you like the content, you like what I'm doing, hit that like button, leave comments, all this kind of stuff. It really helps to, for them to know that I'm doing a good job and that I can keep doing this for you. Well, thank you, Rich. I appreciate it. All right. Yeah. So again, thanks everybody. I'm sorry I can't walk and chew gum at the same time. It's a flat out miracle that I can play guitar because I'm so uncoordinated. But yeah, I like to appreciate everybody coming out. Click that link, get those tabs. If you've not already done so, subscribe to the channel. Not only do I do these live streams a couple of days a week, but they upload 2 or 3 just regular YouTube videos that I do every week too. So on the channel, I have hundreds of videos on there that you can check out. Alan Grayson, Nazareth Telegraph, please. Alan, I'm going to let you in on a little secret. If you just kind of keep an eye on this YouTube channel for the next day or two, there might be something in there for you. Muse. I've never tried to play any other stuff. I really like their music, listening to it, but I've never tried to play any of it. Hair of the Dog, that's one of the ones that's on. Actually, if you go to the channel, it's on there. Oh my gosh, if I remember how to play it. There we go. Something like that. But yeah, I did a video a couple of months ago on how to play Hair of the Dog. All right. Well, again, everybody, thanks for coming out. Really appreciate it. And I will be back tomorrow at the same time, 7 p.m. Eastern time. I'm not really sure what we're going to do yet. I'll figure it out tomorrow, but hope to have you guys come back. What kind of a guitar is this? This is a Spear Gladius HTSI. Super Bowl pick. Oh, what's my Super Bowl pick? Well, as much as this might be an unpopular thing to say, I don't even know who's playing. I don't really follow. Football was never really a sport that I was into back. I used to watch. I was way into baseball when I was a kid, and then when they had the lockout and they fired everybody, I stopped watching. And then I got into the NBA, and then they had a lockout, and they were all crying about not making any money. I quit watching. I liked the NHL. I watched the NHL. They started crying about how much money they were making and had the lockout. So I'm just kind of done with it. I mean, I don't have anything against professional sports or people being paid. I think they should be paid for what you do. But I look at it this way: you were a rookie last year and you got paid, $3.5 million, and now there's no season this year and you don't have any money, you're an idiot, because what did you do with that money? If somebody handed me $3 million right now, none of you'd ever see me again. I could go and live like a king for the rest of my life and then some on that. What? They as a guitar just let me that for sale locally. I'm not getting that one. Not understanding that. But yeah, yeah. So I don't have a pick for the Super Bowl. Sorry, I don't even know who's playing. The last time that I watched the Super Bowl was the first time that the Patriots were in it, and they hadn't been in it for a long time, and they were like the total underdog. I think they beat the Bears and won the Super Bowl. That was the last time I watched it. And that was like in the late 80s or early 90s or something, I got to imagine. All right. Well, again, I know I've said this 40 times. Thanks everybody for coming out. I really appreciate it. I'm going to go get me some food. So have a good night, everybody, and hope to see you tomorrow. Have a good one. Thanks. Oh, guitar just like yours for sale locally in Birmingham, a Spear Gladius. Oh, yeah. I mean, without seeing it, I don't know what kind of shape it's in, but I've got several of these things and I love them. I mean, this particular guitar right here is like one of my favorite guitars that I own. All right. Have a good one, everybody, and I will see you tomorrow. Thanks for tuning in. Have a great night, everybody.